Lesson 166. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. Hello, you lovely beings, you divine spirits having a human experience. Welcome to the Qigong Support for A Course in Miracles. I'm Judith and this is the Lucid Mind Center. As you can hear, I've been caught with the flu, this time rather severely. But this particular lesson, reading the lesson together with you is a really nice way for me to connect with the ideas of A Course in Miracles and also to just get a relaxing time. So thank you for being here. What we're going to do first, we're going to read this A Course in Miracles lesson together. We're going to contemplate it together. Let's see what ideas come up, what we are inspired to share with each other today. At the end, I will guide you to different Qigong classes which can be suitable for you to apply this lesson to. Before we start, make sure to subscribe to my channel. At the end, let me know how this has gone for you and also share with somebody who might need it. Also, what I would like to do before we start, I would just like to line up with our higher self. Just become aware that we are more than this physical body, that we actually are connected to Source at all times. So put a smile on your face. You can put your legs down. Put a smile on your face. Remember the central channel which is coming through the top of your head. You can just knock here 3 times. You can knock here and breathe through this particular point. This is just above the ears, right here. The third eye is right here. Inhale and then try to exhale right through this spot. One more. Last one. Just imagine that you're blowing out. Very good. And then inhale. Use both hands. Inhale. You are like inhaling fresh energy from around you. And now press this energy through that central channel down, through the whole body, like in front of the spine, all the way down, exhaling. Let's do it again. We just collect the fresh chi, which is all the way around us. And then we just press it down. And this time say the sound. We are kind of opening up the channel. And then just start wagging your tail. Just imagine where the coccyx bone is, that you are kind of growing that tail, a dragon's tail, down into the earth. Deep into the earth, and just start shaking it. You're also growing roots. And just imagine that you're letting go of all those negative ideas and emotions. You're just giving them away to Mother Earth. Very good. And let's do one more. Inhale. And do it again, the healing sound. This is the purging sound. Very good. Notice how you feel. Put your hands on your belly, exhale. And now inhale, make the belly big. And exhale. I just want you to lower your awareness into the lower dantian, becoming aware of the core of the space your body is occupying, because this is also which is the center of your energy field. This is also the center of the center of your awareness. So inhale and just sink it down into the core of your being. You have got feeling spots all over. You can feel you can sense your belly, you can sense your perineum, you can sense your genitals, you can sense your sphincter muscles, you can sense your spine, you can sense your belly. So that central channel is kind of in between all those sensory spots coming out right of the perineum. So let's open this up. Inhale, squeeze, and exhale. Let's do that 2 times. Last one. Just observe a moment. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to do the healing sound for the triple warmer and the pericardium. The sound goes like this. Like he. And so he. And we're going to push this through, cleanse it, and fill it with purple light. Let's try that. Okay, inhale. Imagine that you're connecting to like a violet or purple ball right above it, like a neon purplish. Inhale. And now say, one more, in. And then you can say to your higher self, I'm opening up so you can give me the messages I need so I can transmit the best way and receive the best way to become my true self, to remember who I truly am and to remember my function. Let's begin. Lesson 166. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. All things are given you. God's trust in you is limitless. He knows His Son. He gives without exception, holding nothing back that can contribute to your happiness. And yet, unless your will is one with His gifts are not received. But what would make you think that there is another will than His? And this is so interesting because it works so well with my situation right now. First of all, I have got this illness, but then at the same time, it's a flu. It's a common flu with quite a lot of headache. But at the same time, I'm feeling really down. And that means that I have forgotten to connect to God. I have forgotten to connect for His will and mine to be one. I have chosen to let the ego take over and be in misery. Quite unbelievable when I'm observing it from this standpoint. Here is the paradox that underlies the making of the world. This world is not the will of God, and so it is not real. So this world which I am observing, which is miserable, this world is not the will of God. Yet those who think it real must still believe there is another will, and one that leads to opposite effects from those He wills. So if you, for example, look at the war situation, which we have several war situations currently in the world, and we always have several war situations. Some people say, how can God allow this? Well, it's not God who has created this war situation. It's not the world He has created. He has created ways out of it for us, but He has not created the war, nor is it His will to have that war. This is our will. This is our disconnection from self. This is our projection onto the other human beings, which we believe we need to kill or protect ourselves against. And even while I'm reading this to you, and it sounds all clear to me, if I suddenly have somebody coming and breaking into my house and wanting to steal something, I'm going to defend. Or even worse, if that person tries to attack one of my children, I'm probably ready to kill for protecting my children. So it is quite a big leap to understand that that you don't need to stop the other one. Or maybe you need to stop him anyhow. But while you're even stopping him, you still have to kind of see the light within the other. So you're just basically stopping his ego. You're saying, no, you're not doing this. This atrocity you're not doing. I remember that you're the light of the world, but this action which you're doing here right now, this is not the light of the world. So you're kind of stopping them. And those urges to stop somebody who's going crazy, these are sometimes not so true. This is kind of an instinct. It's like an inspiration. You're like, no. And sometimes you're just going to have to go with it. If that arises, that arose. And then you have to go with it. Yeah. Not everybody is meant to be an empath. Some of us have to be pioneers. Some of us have to be hard. Some of us have to stop others. But it always depends on how you are looking at it. Here is the paradox that underlies the making of the world. This world is not the will of God, and so it is not real. Yet those who think it real must still believe there is another will, and one that leads to opposite effects from those he wills. Impossible indeed, but every mind that looks upon the world and judges it as certain, solid, trustworthy, and true, believes in two creators, or in one, himself alone, but never in the one God. The gifts of God are not acceptable to anyone who holds such strange beliefs. He must believe that to accept God's gifts, however evident they may become, however urgently he may be called to claim them as his own, is being pressed to treachery against himself. He must deny their presence, contradict the truth, and suffer to preserve the world he made. And that is that conflict we have, as I just said. So what do? Do I defend or do I not defend? Luckily, we're not in that situation at the moment. Here is the only home he thinks he knows. Here is the only safety he believes that he can find. Without the world he made, is he an outcast, homeless and afraid. He does not realize that it is here he is afraid indeed, here in this world. And homeless too, an outcast wandering so far from home, so long away, he does not realize he has forgotten where he came from. And this was always very bizarre to me, where he goes and even who he really is. And this particular thing I thought was bizarre long before I ever heard anything from A Course in Miracles. This is when I was about 19, 20 years old. I thought it was so bizarre that we could not remember where we came from and that we didn't know where we were going to. And that there were so many different belief systems which are confusing everybody. And that we had those holy wars and the crusades which the Christians did in the Middle Ages, and atrocities which the Christians did 500 years, 600 years ago in the name of God, or basically for a whole millennia. The atrocities we did in the name of God. And that we just, because we couldn't remember where we came from, we didn't consider it a reality. Where do we come from? Where are we going? And who are we really? Because when you consider this, then you act differently. We all act differently. Yet in his lonely, senseless wanderings, God's gifts go with him. All are known to him. And I just really want to talk with you about the God's gifts. If God's gifts are going with you wherever you go, what does that mean? That means wherever your mind is wandering towards, whether you're taking the body with you or not, the God's gifts are in your reach. That means if you are mentally walking off into the future and thinking about something in the future, you can project some positive stuff into the future, or you can project some argument into the future which you're afraid of. Or you can bring the present moment into the body, and you have got all the gifts of God at your disposal. Yet in his lonely, senseless wanderings, God's gifts go with him, all unknown to him. He cannot lose them, but he will not look at what is given him. He wanders on, aware of the futility he sees about him everywhere, perceiving how his little lot but dwindles as he goes ahead to nowhere. Still he wanders on in misery and poverty, alone though God is with him, and the treasure is so great that everything the world contains is valueless before its magnitude. He seems a sorry figure, weary, worn, in threadbare clothing, and with feet that bleed a little from the rocky road he walks on. No one but has identified with him, for everyone who comes here has pursued the path he follows, and has felt defeat and hopelessness as he is feeling them. Yet is he really tragic when you see that he is following the way he chose, and need but realize who walks with him and open up his treasures to be free? It's tragic Because when you kind of say to them, you're looking at it the wrong way, and you can't say this to them, because if you say that, they might get really, really offended. When I am not 100%, when I say this to somebody and they get into a defense or they start attacking me, I immediately go into defense mode myself, forgetting that I am the holy child of God, that I have got all those gifts in my possession. It's because I am not 100% aligned. This very illness which I'm having now, for me, this is a sign that I am not 100% aligned. Because for one reason or another, I am not allowing myself to take the time off, which I really need to take off. So I am creating this scene for me. So I'm allowing myself to step out of the world which I want to escape from. Bizarre. This is your chosen self, the one you made as replacement for reality. This is the self you savagely defend against all reason. Every evidence and all the witnesses which prove to show this is not you. You heed them not. You go on your appointed way with the eyes cast down, lest you might catch a glimpse of truth and be released from self-deception and set free. You cower fearfully lest you should feel Christ's touch upon your shoulder and perceive his gentle hand directing you to look upon your gifts. How could you then proclaim your poverty in exile? He would make you laugh at this perception of yourself. Where is self-pity then? And what becomes of all the tragedy you sought to make for him whom God intended only joy? Your ancient fear has come upon you now, and justice has caught up with you at last. Christ's hand has touched your shoulder, and you feel that you are not alone. You even think that the miserable self you thought was you may not be your identity. We have gone far, because we are considering, we are kind of detaching, we are kind of, is this really what I want? So we have moved along. Perhaps God's word is truer than your own. Perhaps his gifts to you are real. Perhaps he has not wholly been outwitted by your plan to keep his son in deep oblivion and go the way you chose without yourself. God's will does not oppose. It merely is. It is not God you have imprisoned in your plan to lose yourself. He does not know about a plan so alien to his will. There was a need he did not understand, to which he gave an answer. That is all. And you who have this answer given, you have need no more of anything but this. Now do we live, for now we cannot die. The wish for death is answered, and the sight that looked upon it now has been replaced by vision which perceives that you are not what you pretend to be. One walks with you who gently answers all your fears with this one merciful reply. It is not so. It is not the way you see it, because you are entrusted with the gifts of God, with the gifts of God. He points to all the gifts you have. Each time the thought of poverty oppresses you, and speaks of his companionship when you perceive yourself as lonely and afraid. Yet he reminds you still of one thing more you had forgotten. For his touch on you has made you like himself. The gifts you have are not for you alone. What he has come to offer you, you now must learn to give. And this is a very, very, very important sentence. Let me read this again to you. The gifts you have are not for you alone. What he has come to offer you, you now must learn to give. This is the lesson that he that his giving holds, for he has saved you from the solitude you sought to make, in which to hide from God. He has reminded you of all the gifts that God has given you. He speaks as well of what becomes your will when you accept these gifts and recognize they are your own. And what happens is when you start sharing these gifts, when you're smiling at people, when you're kind, forgiving, when you are joyful, when your presence is joyful and you actually gift joy with your mere presence, then you see what your presence, what your forgiveness, what your smile, what your happiness actually does to other people. It usually changes the situations for you. It is almost as if you are a shining light walking into darkness. The gifts are yours, entrusted to your care, to give to all who choose the lonely road you have escaped. They do not understand, they but pursue their wishes. It is you who teach them now. It is you who teach them now. And you who teach them now, that means many of us, not me alone. It is all of us, you and me and anybody else who's doing the Course in Miracles. It is us who are meant to teach this now. And how do we teach? We teach by example. We are teaching by being our joyful, happy self. And we do not always succeed. Sometimes we fall into those holes. And sometimes we hopefully understand why we fall into these holes and that they probably are there. So we learn how to get out of them so we can teach others better how to get out of those holes. The gifts are yours, entrusted to your care to give to all who choose the lonely road you have escaped. They do not understand, but pursue their wishes. It is you who teach them now. For you have learned of Christ, there is another way for them to walk. Teach them by showing them, and here it goes. Teach them by showing them happiness that comes to those who feel the touch of Christ and recognize God's gifts. And it's not about pretending to be happy. It is about actually being happy. Because if you're pretending to be happy, you're going to fall deeper than if you were just your normal self. So there's many people who are pretending to be happy. So no, don't do that. Question yourself, am I actually happy? Let sorrow not tempt you to be unfaithful to your trust. Your sighs will now betray the hopes of those who look to you for their release. Your tears are theirs. If you are sick, you but withhold their healing. There you go. If you are sick, you but withhold their healing. And I'm sick right now. Your sighs will now betray the hopes of those who look to you for their release. Your tears are theirs. If you are sick, you but withhold their healing. What you fear but teaches them their fears are justified. Your hand becomes the giver of Christ's touch. Your change of mind becomes the proof that who accepts God's gift can never suffer anything. You are entrusted with the world's release from pain. Betray it not. Become the living proof of what Christ's touch can offer everyone. God has entrusted all His gifts to you. Be witness in your happiness to how transformed the mind becomes, which chooses to accept His gifts and feel the touch of Christ. And you see, I have to be honest here, when I then get unhappy, when I do not feel the joy and happiness, which has been quite present in the last few days, last few weeks even, then I kind of punish myself. I kind of punish myself for not seeing the beauty in the world, for not seeing the beauty in my life, not seeing the beauty in others. It is quite interesting. So then I punish myself. And then I'm actually, the people who are closest to me, who see me, they're obviously suffering along together with me, which is no good. God has entrusted all his gifts to you. Be witness in your happiness to how transformed the mind becomes, which chooses to accept his gifts and feel the touch of Christ. And for some reason I have rejected it. Because it says here, your sighs, if I am down, will now betray the hopes of those who look to you for their release. Because they're looking to me, they say, oh, she's doing well. So if I am down, they're like, well, she can't do it, otherwise should I? Your tears are theirs. If you are sick, you but withhold their healing. What you fear but teaches them their fears are justified. Your hand becomes the giver of Christ, but your hand becomes the giver of Christ's touch. And the thing is that sometimes if people observe that you are down and then you come out of that downer, then you are showing a way out of the downer, you see? It is because people are observing you, your children observe you, your friends, they observe how you're dealing with it. And sometimes your path is showing them how you're getting out from the misery into happiness. You see? So sometimes I guess we gonna have to, or let me put it this way, if you fall into misery, then use this to show to yourself and others how to get out of it. Yeah. Betray it not, become the living proof of what Christ's touch can offer everyone. The Christ within you. God has entrusted all his gifts to you, so it means all the gifts are within you already. Be witness in your happiness to how transformed the mind becomes, which chooses to accept his gifts and feel the touch of Christ. Such is your mission now. For God entrusts the giving of his gifts to all who have received them. He has shared his joy with you, and now you go to share it with the world. This is truly a beautiful lesson. It is also hard in some ways, because if you are not the happy, joyful self, then you are like thinking to yourself, well, why am I not happy? I'm not getting this. Well, let me tell you, I am not always getting it either. Sometimes I am completely clear about it. Sometimes I'm shining. And then sometimes I'm not. You see, it's not always that easy, because we have got every day is different. But every day we get better and faster out of the misery. Quicker out of it. Sometimes you also get these kind of illnesses, this flu or something, because that is healing something else. That is healing some other stuff which needs to be healed. So the virus comes in, and then the white blood cells activate, the soldiers in the body activate themselves and clean out all the things which need to be cleaned out. So anyway, the gifts of God are joy and happiness, vision and light. So I suggest you try this Qigong class, which is a longer class for that. Here you have got a shorter class, and otherwise you can pick any lesson randomly from the whole list. Let me know how it goes. Love, light and chi to you.